Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rob, and I'm joined with Portia and Dawn, and this is episode number 8 of the Metanoia Effect. And what is metanoia? Metanoia is all about rebirth, a profound rebirth, rebranding, reframing, like whatever word you want to use. And the three of us, we take topics and we give our three different perspectives. So today we're going to be talking about, are we making childhood easier or adulthood harder? So now, first, why did I pick this topic? Because I work with athletes, right? I don't just work with adults in a gym. I also work with athletes, and I'm constantly trying to mold their minds and not just their bodies. Because are we creating a society that is too easy and people expect everything to be easy? But you really build that fortitude and resilience by doing the hard things. So, Portia, I'll start with you. When you hear that question, are we making childhood easier or adulthood harder? What are the first thoughts that come to your mind?
Immediately, I think we're making childhood too easy. And the reason I said I grew up in the 90s. So you figure I grew up where we had to learn how to do everything manually from multiplication, division, which I love algebra now, by the way. I didn't back when I was in school. I hated it. But I use the y equals mx plus b, which is slope intercept form for everything now. But I didn't use it back then because I didn't understand it. Even today, I can go into my computer's operating system if something's wrong and troubleshoot it. To me, the generation today does not have that because everything they can go find it on TikTok. They can find it on YouTube, where it doesn't give them that opportunity or like, oh, somebody else has already done it, so I don't have to do it. I often think about too, Robert, I grew up as a tomboy. So I grew up playing sports in the backyard with my boy cousins. I was the only girl. So the first time I got my finger jammed, when the basketball goes on top of your
Yes,
finger and it
yes.
hurts like all know what, I remember that feeling of, oh, I got to suck this up. I can't let the boys see me be a chump at all.
Mm,
So for me, I built a level of strength and resilience during that period of my lifetime, even though at the time it wasn't comfortable. But when I think about it now, my mom giving us the opportunity to explore being a tomboy. I got to play sports with the boys, go play sink the bottle in the creek. Remember that where you had to sink the bottle that was floating or skip rocks or hike or what's the other game? Manhunt, play manhunt. I think
man.
so many kids today don't have that exploration curiosity because everything's just handed to them where they've become watchers instead of doers.
Agreed, 100%. Dawn, what are your thoughts on that when you see that question? Are we making childhood easier or adulthood harder?
I think both. I think that both because we're making childhood easy, it makes adulthood harder. I grew up in the 1900s,
Yeah.
so um,
Wait, so you saw my hero, Garrett Morgan? You could say hi to him.
no. But when I first saw that question, it reminded me. I have a grandson. He's now 1.5, but he came over on Easter, and I love watching his parents with him, my daughter and my son-in-law, because he was trying. He had the little plastic eggs, and he needed to open them to get his little puff treat out of it. But instead of doing it for him, like his dad was showing him, this is how you do it, and he was making him learn how to do it, and he quickly learned it. But my first instinct was to do it for him, right? But I watched Chris do that, show him so that he learned. So I feel like we need to let kids like figure things out, learn, fall, all those things. And when I grew up in the 70s, it was, you go outside and in the summer and your parents don't know where you are until like it's dark and you come back in the house, and we used to go to the creek and we used to catch tadpoles and do all kinds of, silly things. My parents had no idea what we were doing. And honestly, I couldn't imagine doing that with my girls. Like I was kind of a helicopter mom. They did turn out okay, but I think in the world that we live, and this is the last thing I'm going to say to that. I think with technology, we have to remember to be physically present with our kids. I have 3 children's books out, and I refuse 2/3 book sales. Wait, 1/3 of book sales is physical today, 1/3 is Kindle, and 1/3 is audio. And I was told that I'm missing 2/3 of my market because I won't do the audio or the Kindle. And I said, you know what, kids are on screens too much. I want them to be physically present with a book and a parent and, that kind of thing. So yeah, I do think we are making, and we're getting a little lazy too. I mean, I find sometimes I'm getting a little lazy with, like search engines and things. I mean, I remember having to go look up things on encyclopedias, and, now everything is like right at our fingertips. And so I think we need to let them, kind of, do the little stumbles, be a safety net for them, but like let them learn through life's challenges and mistakes.
See, and that's a perfect way to flow into the first of the actual questions. And I'll start. Right, so let's show it on the screen here. So when did competition stop being about discovering what we're capable of and start becoming something we're trying to protect kids from? And being a sports coach myself, I mean, I know there's different aspects of coaching, but as a sports coach, it grinds my gears when we pacify kids. Like if you can high five them when they do a good job, you should be able to pull them inside and say you're not pulling your weight, right? That's what's being lost in sports today. Is I'll see someone say doing a high jump, and the coach is like, "That was perfect," and I'm like, "The stride was too long. They're on their toes. Not enough arm drive. Not enough knee drive. They didn't stay in the arch long enough, and they kicked too late. Where was the perfection?" It's like we're not doing that athlete any favors by not being truthful. It's like you have to be true. With just one of my guys in a couple hours ago, he was here. He's like, "Why are you making me do this?" I'm like, "Didn't you tell me you want to make the high school football team?" He's like, "Didn't you tell me that? Like, that's your goal. My job is to push you to what your goal is. My job is to take your comfort zone and completely destroy it." Because he's a little smaller than the average football player. I said, "So you have to unlock that dog in you if you want to make the team. Because a coach will take potential, but I'm not going to help you get there if I make this training easy for you." I was like, "You get that dog in you from doing hard stuff." Dawn, you can give your perspective. Remember, this is mine, right? This is how I do it. Is I get to the heart of the matter, and I let you know, all right, this is the task. This is how we're going to get you to your task. And being a coach myself, there's nothing worse than seeing a kid with potential without the drive. It's like people say that drive can't be taught. It's true, it can't be taught, but every human has the fight or flight response, every single one. So once you learn how to tap into a person's fight, then you can help them get to that next level. Dawn, you down there all shimmying and stuff, so you can go next.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm not going to disagree because the kids you're coaching they're in it for competition. But I was an assistant soccer coach for many years when my daughters were growing up. And in one year we were coaching 2 different teams because my daughters, some years they could be in the same age division and other years they weren't. And so one year we were coaching 2 different teams, and I wanted the girls to have fun. And we won 2 championships in each division that year. But when we were in the playoffs, I remember the coach that was on the other team. Those girls were like out on the team. They're doing their warm-ups. They were doing like sit-ups and push-ups. Like they were doing like hardcore. Like these are like 10-year-old girls maybe, or maybe 8, 9. And I took my girls over and we were doing the warm-ups and we did the hokey pokey. And my girls had fun and they enjoyed being on that team. So again, I was coaching for fun. I wasn't coaching for competition. So again, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just saying I think that there can be both. And I always wanted the fun element. And I remember one of the moms on the team, and this little girl did not want to be playing soccer at all. You could tell she had bad attitude, and we made it fun for her. We ran into her mom at the grocery store after the season was over, after we won the 2 championships. And she said, "You know what? My daughter wants to play again next year. She goes, she didn't want to play at all this year, but they made her play. And she said, because she had such a good time, she wants to play again. So again, I'm not disagreeing what you're saying, Robert, because you're doing it, you're coaching in a different capacity, but I think that you can do both. And I'm all
Yeah,
about positive
yeah.
reinforcement always.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. It's like when I'm pushing my athletes, it's definitely with their goal in mind. Like it's not just do this just for the sake of doing this, right? So this past year, I worked with a bunch of seniors, and every single one of them are competing in college next year. It's like that's what the goal was. So I work with mainly track athletes. So I get what you're saying in the team aspect. Like you definitely want that camaraderie. I agree with that 100%. But again, just my style is the work comes first. It's like when we're practicing, I need you at your best. It's like I don't care how you're feeling. I don't care if you had a fight with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or if your mother grounded you or took your phone away. None of that stuff matters. Like when you walk onto this field or step into this gym, it's go time. We can laugh and we can chop it up beforehand. We can laugh and chop it up on the breaks. But when it's time to work, it's like we are all business. Like I don't even think I told either one of you. I'm taking what I do and I actually turned it into a program. And you two knowing me and knowing my style and my personality, I think you'll appreciate the name of this program. And it's called Built for Pressure. Built for Pressure. Because I see it in all of the big track meets. Like even one of my girls in North Kingstown, she qualified for the New England as a sophomore and she didn't go. And I'm like, why aren't you going? She's like, because it's scary. And I was thinking, because it's scary? Like that's why you're not going, so this program is geared towards that person that has the talent, that but they lack the internal push to face the moment when the moment arises. Go ahead, Portia.
So, Dawn, to your point about the soccer team, it makes me think of when I had to audition to become a part of the newscast when I was in college. And I'd never read on camera before, utilized a teleprompter. But I remember when I did my audition, I read my lines perfectly. But in my head, I sounded terrible. I sounded like a cat, a dying cat scratching a bunch of walls to me. That's how I sounded. So I remember running out of the studio and hiding in the bathroom. And one of the managers followed me and said, "Hey, you did amazing. You were a little quiet, but we understood you perfectly." And it made me think about how that feedback that I received, yeah, I may have read everything perfectly. That was the reinforcement of you just need to speak a little louder, but you've got it. And I think to your point, Robert, when it comes to this question about when the competition stop being about discovering what we're capable of, I think we like to doll things up. We don't want to hurt people's feelings, but there's a way to deliver news to people without hurting their feelings. For example, we've all gone to some type of speaker competition and we've listened to how speakers deliver. Being a good speaker requires you to put on a performance. And so when we watch these people do that, sometimes people are like, oh, well, they didn't stand here properly. They didn't say this word right. But at the end of the day, they caught your attention. So I think really it's become this notion of people learning how to provide feedback and not criticism, because we all are a work in progress. I mean, I still sometimes flub over words on my podcast, but I keep it going, right? I keep it moving. Every day is great that ends in Y, and I'm ready like SpongeBob. So I think that's really where it's come from, is we like to try to we used to call it puff pieces back when I was in TV. We called it puff pieces. People like to put the puff pieces instead of the real seriousness to things. Like we all need feedback. We all have room for improvement. But I think especially with younger kids, I often think about how the participation trophy analogy comes up. All the kids participate. Here's your trophy. But what are we really teaching them about their own individual skill set, the goals that they have? Maybe, Dawn, to your point, this little girl maybe didn't want to play soccer anymore after her experience. But because of your coaching, she's like, oh, yeah, I want to go back. Right. So what are we teaching people realistically? I think we need to learn how to give feedback in a non-judgmental way to help people to not be afraid of competition, because at the end of the day, we're only as good as how we put ourselves to be.
Yeah, I love that. The, as
Had
long
that
as it's
manager,
getting, go ahead.
I was going to say, had that manager come in and followed you into the bathroom and was said, you know what, you were too quiet, we couldn't hear. If she would have started it off like with the criticisms and pointing out like what you didn't do well, you would have received that very differently. Right. And I think there's a balance to be able to point out what you can do better, but also point out what you did well.
I want to
I
add
think
to
when you,
that, Dawn. I want to add to that really quick because I did have a situation not too long ago where I did receive feedback just like that. You were too quiet. This was terrible. All the 9 yards, all the red flags for me to say, you know what? I'm going to use some fine usage, colorful keepsakes if you catch my drift of what that says. And I'm not having it. But because of where I am today, right, if y'all caught what I meant there, good. If you didn't, it's okay. Dawn, you got it because you know I've used it before. But I realized that when we're given feedback, it's data. Now, we know some people can take things personally. They want you to take things personally. When I had this situation happen not too long ago for me, I didn't take it personally. And it took me time to build on that because I said there was an expectation that someone had that was not met, but it's not a flaw on my skill and ability. And it took me time to understand the difference. So I think that's the other key component too, is working on your mindset. I had to work on that for myself for years. So, and because of what I've done recently, that's how I actually landed a new gig because of the feedback and me taking time to process it before I responded.
See, so the thing is that people have to understand there's a difference between criticism and feedback. Because for me, my personal definition, criticism is feedback without direction, right? So if you're just simply coming down on someone, that's criticism. But like, let's take one of my high jumpers, like all the examples I gave earlier, like all of this stuff is why you missed that jump. Here's how we're going to correct it, and then they'll focus on that. Here's how we're going to correct it. Like I remember one year my daughter was playing basketball, and like she was never like a standout player, but she was solid. Like she could get out there, she could drop some buckets, she was aggressive on defense. But she had this one game where she was just off, and I was a coach, so like I pulled her out of the game, and I was like, look, shooting wise, you just don't have it today. So get out there, get steals, get rebounds, and lock down the other person on defense. Like today, your shot's just not falling. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But if I just pulled her out of the game and was like, you know what, you're playing trash today, get on the end of the bench. Like that's a difference. Like that's criticism. But to point out where the shortcomings are and then immediately give them a different plan of action, that's coaching. But what's also equally as devastating is when you praise underperformance. I think that is also damaging. Like people have to know when they're underperforming. All of us at one point had a boss, right? If you're underperforming on your job, you will be told about yourself, right? You will be told about your performance. You can be written up. And letting the kids know at a young age, you're going to have to deal with this in life, right? Life isn't going to reward underperformance. It's not how it works, and like I tell my athletes, like if you're serious about coaching to the next level, because I don't work with beginners, like I work with the athletes that have the tools. We go through a fitness assessment. I lay out the expectations. I lay out that I'm very no nonsense. I'm like, so if your goal is to make that high school football team or compete in track and field in college or whatever your next level is. I just started working with a freshman volleyball player that wants to play volleyball in college. That's a different level, right? This isn't surface level coaching, right? So
right.
if you take Gino Auriemma, the head coach of the UConn women's basketball team, who has a bajillion titles, and you listen to his speeches, his speeches are way different than the Community College of Rhode Island's basketball team. You know what I mean? So like there's different levels to this, and not saying my coaching is above anyone else's. You have to know who you're working with. If I'm coaching a rec team, right, then you're working with people who are green, and you're just teaching them how to dribble, teaching them how to pass, teaching them how to shoot, making sure everybody gets minutes. But on my varsity track team, we have a chance to go back to back in state championships. And I tell the kids, it's not about me as the coach, it's about you. And like you get to wear that title of champion forever. It's like every time you set foot onto this track, you were a part of the first NK high school team to, well, girls team anyway, to win a state title, and you have a chance to go back to back. So our practices aren't going to be like when I coached at Narragansett, where we had a third of the amount of athletes and no chance to compete for a state title. It's like we still push them hard, but with this team, it's like we're gonna go harder. And I know we're spending a lot of time on this question, but I think this question is very, very important. And we managed to keep a good amount of people on the live stream with this one question. So is there anything else either one of you want to talk about this one before we move to the next one?
No, I think we covered it. But I did want to just reemphasize, when people come to you, they want to get better. So you've
Yeah.
gotta, say this is how you improve and this needs work and that. But in my situation, it was very different. They were just playing recreational, soccer. They were just little girls. So it was a different way of coaching. But we still did
Yeah.
end up winning, 2 championships. So,
Yeah.
it still worked out.
Love it. Yeah, and to your point too, I coached a was it U10 or U12 basketball team, rec team, and same thing. It was just about the fundamentals. Like it wasn't running for half the practice and doing all this crazy exercises. And we made it to the championship game. We were down by 17 at one point. We closed the gap to 1, but then we ultimately lost by 6. So I've actually used your style, but believe it or not, because I knew in that setting that the bold, me, that wasn't for that setting. But to your point, people hire me to help them get to that next level. So that's where that's needed. But with
Yeah.
that one, I actually wanna skip the actual second question and go to the third. Are we preparing children for the world we wish existed or the world they're actually going to inherit? Who wants to tackle this one first?
Oh, that's a
Okay,
tough one.
I guess I will. It's my question, so obviously I'm prepared with an answer. But I really think sometimes that we shield kids from the reality of the world. Look, I was talking with some of my athletes the other day. Well, he was complaining about having to do something. To me, that was very trivial. And I was like, are you aware that there are people who are not going to eat today? Just to put that perspective into their mind. It's like, yes, what you're entitled to feel what you feel, and this situation is making you feel a certain way, but you have to look at the grand scheme of the world. I mean, there are countries that are at war right now. There are people who are fleeing, people whose houses burned down last night. You know, People who got their houses broken into, and now you're living every night in fear. It's like there are a lot of things that happen in this world that you may not see in your hometown or in your neighborhood, things of that nature. Like there are places where you don't want to be outside after dark. It's like that's the reality of the world. Now, granted, there's a lot of beautiful things that happen in the world as well, but it's just about letting them know that there is another side. Like, for example, I'll use Broad Street here in Rhode Island. In the Cranston side, you got the Rhode Island Yacht Club, you got these high end restaurants, beautiful neighborhood, gated communities. You drive over into Providence, Broad Street don't look the same. You know what I mean? So it's two completely different worlds. And I just think that kids just need to know to be positive, to be hopeful, to be optimistic, but just understand that there are bad things that do happen. There are bad people in the world, and they just need to be aware that the life isn't just in their bubble. Who wants to go next?
I
I
do.
can go. Go ahead, Dawn. Go ahead.
Well, because of the work I do in Africa, I remember many years ago, my daughters were still in junior high school, and I was unhappy about something that was happening in my life. And I remember, talking to Dad, God, my angels, like whoever, like I didn't know what to do. And what I heard in my head was, Dawn, somewhere there's a mother in Africa who cannot feed her child. And it really kind of like put everything in perspective. And because of the work that I've been able to do over the last 10 years in Africa, on the ground, in the villages, anything that happens in my life today, I'm always able to view it through that lens of gratitude. Look what you do have. Look what you do have to be grateful for. So being able, like, preparing children for the world we wish existed, I don't know exactly how to answer that, because I think that we can be the change that we wish to see. So that's what I've tried to always instill in my daughters. Like, if you see something that you don't like, do something about it. Don't just complain about it. Get in there and be the change, and do what you can to make that a better situation. So I will pass it off to the Queen of Gratitude, because she is the Queen of Gratitude.
I am. And Dawn, I'm glad you brought up gratitude, because I think so many people today, they don't realize how much they have to be grateful for. Right, Robert, to your point, not everybody's going to wake up one day and all their fine jewelry or TVs are going to be gone that they worked hard for. They're not going to wake up and right. They may not wake up at all. Right. And I think about the children of today. They're exposed to so much, way more than what we were. I mean, I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 15, and I had a flip phone. So you figure my flip phone could not check the internet like my iPhone and Samsung can today. So I think what we're really preparing the kids of today for is how we show up in the world. How are we being that example of, yeah, we've had adverse circumstances in our lives, but we're still paying it forward. We're still making an impact and making a difference. We didn't let our circumstances harden our hearts. I think about the different people that I won't name who this person is, but Dawn, you know the story about this. There's someone recently who I know that lost someone close to them. And let's just say that both of these people, they had a good relationship, but it got fractured at some point in their lifetime. And when that relationship got fractured and it was the day of this person's celebration of life, this other person had the nerve to say, go rot. And so what are we teaching people, right? How come some of us, our hearts stay hardened, while others of us, me, you, Dawn, and Robert, we allow ourselves to stay open, to still seek the beauty, to still see that there's goodness still in the world? Because I could have easily done the same thing after my mom and dad died. What's the point of living where the two people who brought me into the world are no longer here to physically see all the things that I'm doing in the world? But I have to remember my why. I have to remember what my mom said to me before she transitioned. She said, Portia, go for it. Go for your dreams. And one of the things my mom was big on was education. She always said, everybody has the ability to learn. So we all have the ability to learn how to make the world better. It may not happen overnight, but we can all do our part to make things beautiful again.
Yeah. Even if it's just something as simple as making the person next to you feel seen. Like saying hello, giving a genuine compliment, making them saying a silly thing, making somebody laugh. That's how we change the world. It doesn't have to be big, grandiose things. It's like in every interaction, we can do that. And like show up as an example for your children so that they see you doing that, not just telling them this is what you should do. Be that person.
I want to touch on that, Dawn, really quick. Last week, to touch on that, I had to take my dog, Mr. Fletcher, to the vet. And of course, you guys know sometimes vet visits are not always fun. It's like being with a little 5-year-old that's never had any types of shots. So they're going to be running everywhere. And so I'm glad Mr. Fletcher did good with his simple blood draw, knock on wood. Well, when I was leaving from the vet, there was a gentleman standing at the counter, and the vet tech handed him a bag. And I knew immediately what was in that bag. His pet was cremated. And so when he left He got out before me, and I was sitting there hoping that the vet tech would hurry up and give me my card back so I could catch this man. So I said, sir, hold on. So he turned around and I said, can I give you a hug? And I gave him a hug. He was an older guy. He was probably in his late 60s, 70s. And I could feel the tears in this man's throat. And I said to him, I said, tell me about your pet. So he told me it was his cat who was 14 or 15 years old. Her name was Nala. And he had said that he also had lost one of his dogs previously, a couple weeks before that. But I extended that hand to him because I could see it. There's so many people. That's why I do what I do. There's so many people who have lost someone, a pet, have had a transition in their life, and they don't have that open arms of someone telling them it's okay. I'm here for you.
That's beautiful, Portia.
I thought I told you that story. Maybe I didn't, but yeah, that happened last week when I took Fletcher to the vet, and I said I could feel it. I could literally feel his tears as he was walking by me. But with him being an older man, obviously we're not going to even touch on that today about men and emotions because of that age group. Because my uncle's the same age as him, they don't want to show anything because in society standards, you're not supposed to.
See, so and I know we got to close down soon, but and what we do, and I'm speaking from my own perspective, and then you two can touch on this. Our part in doing well, my part in being the change is helping to unlock people's potential. So and that can work in any facet of life. It could be through channels like this. It could be with my athletes. I work at a restaurant on the weekends. Even there, going in, it's like we have an outdoor seating area. We have live music, and there's a separate kitchen that services that area. So I work in there, and so it's myself. It was two other cooks, and I said, "All right, guys, look, today we're gonna do this without the kitchen manager. Okay, we got this." And they elevated their game. Because sometimes that's all it takes is just one person to say, you know what, we're gonna just step things up today. Because one thing I've always said long before I got into coaching and the podcasting is I always say people work to what the standard is. And so what we do is we raise the standard. Like when people come into this gym, they come in a certain way and I raise their standard. When the athletes walk into the door, like a quick example, one of my high jumpers, he was a sophomore this past season, and I was like, "What's your personal best?" He's like 5'8". He's like, "How much? Like, how high do you want to jump?" He's like 6 foot. I said, "No, 6'2". He's like, "From 5'8" to 6'2". I'm like, "Yes, 5'8" to 6'2". Guess how high he jumped?
6'4".
6'2".
6'3".
Okay.
He just missed 6'4". He had it. He had it, but his foot hit the bar. But I didn't give him any profound high jump knowledge. I simply raised his ceiling, and he met the ceiling. I believe I said on a previous episode with my triple jumper, where I was like, Kevin, it's like, I think he was seated fifth. I said, you can win this. And he's like, do you think so? I said, do you think so? It's like, do you think you can win this? And he ended up winning. He did almost a 2 foot personal best just from simply raising the ceiling. It's like my style works for me because that fits my personality. That's who I am. Everything I do in my life is a challenge. Like everything, like it could be something simple as going for a walk. And I'll set my timer. All right, we're gonna walk this mile in X amount of time. And then I set out and I do it. So when I train people to the standard I hold myself to. And people that need that, they'll gravitate to it, and then so on and so forth with the both of you. The people that need your styles, they'll gravitate to you. And we agree the purpose of this show is not to debate each other, is to show three different perspectives, right? And that's how my perspective works. Like if you come to see me, you're getting me at 100%. When they come to see you two, it's like I won't speak for you two, but you guys can speak to that person that your message is for. So let's take a couple minutes each and let you two respond, and then we'll bring it down.
I would like to just say what you just said. Mindset is everything, right? We all have three different like ways of being and approaching things, but I think we all agree on the fact that your mind, everything starts in your mind. And once you can grasp that and understand that, you could tell yourself you can tell yourself you can't. Either way, you're right. So I love that the emphasis on mindset, because that's what I bring to the table. I don't do it in the way you do, but I do it in the same way, in the way that I do. But at the core, it's all about that mindset and believing in yourself.
Yes.
Portia.
Mindset, finding gratitude where you're at. Dawn knows I tell everybody, be grateful for the seat of occupancy that you're in, because at one point you prayed for it. You wanted to be where you are today. I told Dawn, I have a good problem where I just got a video editor to work for me now, because at one point that was not the case for me, where I was trying to find clients, looking everywhere under rocks like Patrick from SpongeBob, everywhere, and there was none to be found. But now I'm at that point where I can delegate. But at some point in my time, it wasn't the case. So find gratitude in the seat of occupancy that you're in. If you're in a season of transition and grief, be there, be present, because it's not going to be raining forever over your head. Everything happens for a reason. That is my motto that I live by, that everything happens for a reason. We may not understand it. We may never understand it, but just remember that the sun does shine through the rain.
I love it. That and just to add on to that too, the storm will always pass. Like no storm ever stays forever. It eventually passed. Like it was raining crazy for about 4 or 5 hours here earlier, and the rain has stopped. The storm has passed. And it's the same thing with life struggles. Like if you wake up and you struggle every single day, you just need a new approach, because people should not struggle every single day. But that doesn't mean struggle won't be present. It can be present, but how you respond to that struggle is how you're ultimately going to end up moving forward. So, with that being said, that concludes today's episode. Dawn, Portia, always an amazing time with the two of you. I believe, Dawn, you're taking up the reins next week, right?
I am.
Yep.
All righty then. Yeah, so just try to get the info to me a little sooner so I can set it up a little sooner, and then
Let's get off air before we finish for today. So, everyone, we will see you all next week.
I just get stunned live.